flood destroyed every living thing before Noah, why do giants appear again after it? And what if the Bible is not hiding their existence, but hiding their continuity? Because something strange happens in Scripture. Giants appear before judgment, then disappear in the flood narrative, then reappear in Canaan, so the timeline does not close cleanly. It reopens. But how does a sealed world restart the same pattern? What carried over, or what was never truly removed? And why do trained soldiers suddenly describe themselves as grasshoppers? What kind of fear reduces a trained army to that level of self-perception? And why does Scripture repeat this fear pattern every time giants are mentioned? Coincidence or structure? Because the Bible is not careless with repetition. So what is it repeating? Genesis does not begin with giants. It begins with corruption. But then it escalates into violence. Not random violence, systemic violence. So what changed in human civilization? And why does Scripture suddenly introduce a second category of beings in the same chapter? The sons of God saw the daughters of men. Why does the text shift from human corruption to something that sounds like a boundary violation? What boundary was crossed? And what happens when that boundary is crossed? Because the next statement is abrupt. There were giants in the earth in those days. Why mention giants at the moment judgment is being formed? Are they the cause of corruption or the result of it? And what does Nephilim actually imply in its original usage? Does it describe physical size or something tied to reputation and fear? And if the world was already unstable, what role did these figures play in accelerating that instability? Were they rulers? Were they symbols of oppression? Or were they something the text assumes ancient readers already understood? And why does God respond not with correction, but with total reset? What level of corruption removes the possibility of repair? And if everything is reset, why does similar language return later in a different land? What exactly survived the reset? Noah is introduced as an exception, one man in a collapsing world. But what does it mean to be blameless in his generation? Does it mean moral purity or separation from a corrupted system? And why is he instructed to build something unprecedented? An ark. Not a symbol, a physical structure that takes decades to complete. But here is the tension. While Noah builds, the world continues normally. So what did the people see? A builder, or a warning they refuse to interpret correctly? And why does Scripture emphasize mockery during construction?
Look at the sky! It's coming down! Run! Run for your lives!
And everything tied to that world disappears. So the narrative seems complete, a full reset, but then a problem emerges, because later texts begin referencing similar beings again. So was it truly a reset? Or a continuation under new conditions? Centuries later, Israel stands at the edge of Canaan, a promised land, a completed journey, but before entry, 12 spies are sent. Their mission is simple: observe the land. But what they return with is not simple, it is fear. We saw the giants there. Why is that detail emphasized above everything else? Not cities, not armies, but giants. And why does that single detail override all other observations? What did they see that restructured their entire perception of themselves? Because they do not describe strategy.
The land is magnificent, but the cities are fortified and vast.
We saw the sons of Anak there. They are giants. We were like grasshoppers in their sight.
And why does fear become collective immediately after the report? What kind of sight produces shared psychological collapse? And why does Scripture list multiple giant-associated clans in this region? Anakim, Rephaim, Emim. Are these isolated groups, or part of a repeating pattern? And if the flood removed the ancient world, why does the same fear architecture reappear? What is being repeated? Goliath does not appear as a mythological figure. He appears as a battlefield reality, a structured opponent, a visible threat.
He's too big! We can't fight him! Keep moving back, don't look away! Who will stand against him?
An entire army pauses, not because they lack weapons, but because interpretation fails before confrontation begins. So what is Goliath representing in the narrative? A single man, or a recurring pattern of intimidation? And why does Scripture repeatedly link giants with territorial conflict? Is this purely historical description, or narrative reinforcement of fear cycles? Then David enters, a shepherd, not trained in warfare, and yet his perception differs completely. He does not interpret size as authority. He interprets defiance as disorder. So the battle is redefined before it begins, and the giant falls, not because strength changed, but because interpretation changed. So what does this suggest about all previous encounters? Were they ever about size at all, or about perception under pressure? Across all appearances of giants in Scripture, one pattern is consistent. They are always linked to fear, always linked to violence, always linked to conflict, but never fully explained in origin. So what does Scripture prioritize instead? Not origin stories, but response stories. Noah responds with obedience. Israel responds with fear. David responds with faith. So the giants function as pressure points, not conclusions, but triggers that reveal internal condition. And that raises a deeper question. Why does Scripture allow unresolved patterns to remain? Why not clarify continuity? Why not define origin? And why does the text seem more concerned with reaction than explanation? Because the narrative focus is not the unknown entity. It is the human response to uncertainty. So the giants remain partially undefined, not to confuse, but to shift attention from what is seen to how it is interpreted after Genesis, after the flood, after Canaan, after Goliath. The question does not end. It evolves, because the real issue was never only giants. It was interpretation under pressure. So what remains consistent across all generations? Fear appears before action. Faith appears after interpretation shifts, and the outcome depends on which one takes control first. So the question returns again. What do the giants represent? History, memory, or a repeating pattern of human perception under threat? And if Scripture does not fully resolve it, what does that suggest about the purpose of the narrative itself? Is it meant to answer curiosity or shape response? And now the question is no longer ancient, it is present. When something appears larger than you, what defines your reaction first? Fear or faith? Because Scripture records both, but only one transforms outcomes. Comment below your answer.